What is going on, movie fans? James Patrick here with another ranked video. And in this ranked video, we are going to be looking at the Candyman franchise, which there are 4 films. Candyman is one of the most iconic horror franchises that we've ever had. It's a story that began as a myth predicated on social fear and has transformed over time into a mirror reflecting on race, generational trauma, and repressed memories. And across these 4 films, we've seen the legend of Candyman reinvented for better or worse. So today we're going to be ranking all 4 Candyman films from the absolute worst in this series to the best of the best. A little bit short of a ranking since the last ranking series we did was a Halloween franchise, which had 13 films in its catalog. So this was a little bit easier of a palette to get through. But with any of the ranking videos we're doing it based on story, the acting, the directing, the cinematography, the sound design, the gravitas and the screen presence of the Candyman character himself, and of course, how effective each film is at scaring you and entertaining you. Now, before we get into the rankings for Candyman, 2 quick announcements. Number 1, we are just days away from the launch of our new podcast, Film Jury. You can get episodes of the Film Jury podcast wherever you get your podcasts, but also on this channel right here, we're going to be posting the videos of the Film Jury podcast where we're going to be breaking down film critiques in a roundtable jury deliberation format. So subscribe to this channel, turn the notifications on, which is the second request, is to subscribe to this channel. It really helps out the channel so much. And we've had a whole bunch of new subscribers in the last week. So thank you so much for tuning into this. And I can't wait to share the new podcast, which drops next week. We're going to be diving into a couple different films next week. So stay tuned for that. All right. So diving into the rankings, we have to start at the bottom of the bottom at number 4, the worst of the worst. It's kind of obvious. This is a low point in the series. We have, let me bring it up. There we go. 1999's Candyman Day of the Dead, the 4th installment in this. By this time, this film, when it came out, whatever atmosphere that was established in the prior 3 films, whatever intelligence, whatever clever writing, clever character development, story design, whatever it had was gone. This really just devolved what was once a very poetic and atmospheric horror into just a kind of soulless slasher video that really felt straight to video. It is akin, I would put this akin to so many of the Hellraiser straight to video sequels and the worst of the worst Hellraiser straight to video sequels. This will really sour your taste on the Candyman legacy. Starting with acting, Donna D'Arco's performance as the main character, Caroline McKeever, is one of the most glaring problems in the film. She's supposed to be a descendant of Candyman and the daughter of the part 3 protagonist, but she never really feels tethered to this lineage. Her delivery is stale, her emotional reactions are disjointed, and the chemistry with Tony Todd doesn't exist, and she's not good at projecting fear or trauma. Just really confusion kind of throughout this. Tony Todd still shows up. He's ready to act. He's bringing his trademark commanding presence, that magnetism of the Candyman character. But he's the only one that shows up in this movie. None of the other character performers, none of the other beat actors who show up in this really do anything. And with no real storyline and no real direction, it's just all going to fall flat. The plot itself just kind of rehashes the farewell to the flesh storyline, but it drains it of any substance. There's no exploration of the legacy, no social context, just a generic urban legend kills again formula. Visually, this is pretty bare. Everything is overlit. It's very flat. It's uninspired. Where particularly in the first one, and absolutely in the reboot, there's a lot of time and attention spent both to the cinematography and to the light design. In this film, this feels rushed. This feels cheap. This feels like they were just trying to get something out to make money with. There's no texture. There's no atmosphere. It looks like a made-for-TV movie that just happened to stumble its way into a theatrical release. editing's choppy, the pacing really struggles, the sound design is really weak. There's no real uh, operatic score to this. Um, what we in the earlier installments we had a very grand score design, and in this one the soundtrack just felt like library sound effects. um was it entertaining? Absolutely not. This was just abysmal to get through. Was it scary? No, the kills are perfunctory. There's gore, sure, but there's no drama behind it. It's shock value, but there's no soul in it. It doesn't just miss the mark. This film just kind of just abandons what Candyman was supposed to be about. All right, moving on to number 3. Um, we have Candyman Farewell to the Flesh from 1995. This one was okay. Director Bill Condon did give it an attempt to be a little more gothic, a little more lush, a little more steeping into the atmosphere of Candyman. They moved the storyline from Chicago to New Orleans, and I struggled with that at first when I first saw this movie, not understanding why they would move it to a new city. That being said, that Southern Gothic aesthetic, the decaying architecture, the religious iconography, did fit with the Candyman ethos. And I did like when they kind of opened up and expanded upon Candyman's storyline, or I should say Daniel Robitaille's storyline, that human backstory of the artist who was lynched for falling in love. And the history kind of gives that horror, that emotional weight, even when the script can kind of wander a bit. Acting, okay. Kelly Rowan as Annie does decent, a little bit uneven of a performance. She can be sympathetic at times and still at other times. She doesn't command the screen like Virginia Madsen did in the original, but she did okay. Once again, Tony Todd elevates everything. He has this regal presence, this sorrowful villain. It's kind of interesting because he's a villain that you also are feeling empathy for and a connection to, because he's playing a martyr, and that's such a interesting duality that we don't often see in a lot of these characters, and Tony Todd does a really good job of doing it. Cinematography is decent, not as good as the original, but the color design and the color palettes I think were done really well in this. It kind of echoes some of the original film. It's not perfect, but you can tell they spent time on it. Um, the score, Philip Glass returns for the score on this. It's really good. It, just like in the original, it gives the film some weight. Is it entertaining? Is it scary? Um, I would say it's okay. It's not terrifying. It has some chilling moments to it. The fear element is more in tonality, not in jump scares. So overall, this film isn't great, but it's okay. It dives into the mythology a little bit more. Even though it can't really capture the original's intellect or maturity, it does a decent job, which is, you know, I kind of ranked it kind of right in the middle scoring wise. But the other two films are just superior. So that leads us into number 2. We have the 2021 uh, Nia DaCosta's Candyman. This isn't exactly a reboot. It's more of a sequel plus a reinvention. It's a film that took the mythology from the prior installments and actually took elements of each of the installments and combined it into a film that respects the mythology, but also expands on it and it reframes it for a new generation. Um, what I love about this film, particularly in the story, is it creates this concept of a hive. It redefined Candyman as not just a singular man's ghost, in this case, Daniel Robitaille, but a shared spirit of vengeance, of remembrance that gets passed on or gets taken on by whomever needs it. And in this film, you had Daniel Robitaille, you had Sherman Fields, and then you had the Anthony McCoy character. Each individual becomes part of this collective hive myth. So this is an evolution, and it reframes Candyman as an embodiment of generational trauma. And I like that because it moves past this singular ghost narrative that was so stapled in the original films. Um, and it shows how history can repeat itself, not just a singular haunting. Um, One of the best parts about this movie is the acting. The acting is layered. It's emotional. At times, it's tragic. It feels unnerving, and it really particularly the lead actor. You see his psyche unravel as the film goes through. Coleman Domingo is really good in this movie. Even supporting performances from the other cast members all felt real, and or I should say had a tethering to reality. Um, the one thing that we miss about this is Tony Todd is in it so briefly, and for fans of the original one, you want more of Tony Todd, but there's a reason he's so limited in this. Um, the restraint of using him, especially until the ending, definitely hits. It's a reminder that some legends never die; they only evolve, they only change. Um, Cinematography. This is I would say one of the best filmed out of any of them, the best filmed out of any of them. This is visually a stunning film. DaCosta and the cinematographer. Um, Really worked with mirrors a lot in this one. Reflections, how they're framing things, the use of symmetry. It's all playing upon creating distortions, creating dualities. Um, the color palette is very intentional. That really plays into the feeling of unease, the feeling of horror. Um, it's a very polished film, but it's done with a lot of intention. It's done with a lot of care. Um, the score is really good. You have strings and these fractured echoes and whispers that they're blending into the music. But they're also doing some subtle callbacks to Philip Glass's original score throughout it. That just kind of raises the tension throughout. Is it entertaining and is it scary? I wouldn't say it's a scary movie. This is a slow burn. This is this is more about atmosphere. It's more about the character study than the previous installments, which had more of a scary element to it. That being said, there's some scenes in this that I think are so phenomenal, and one in particular is after the lead character meets with the art critic in her Chicago apartment or condominium, and you have that slow pan, that drone camera as he's leaving the apartment from outside of her window, and the camera's panning back, and she's walking through her apartment. And all of a sudden, you see her get lifted into the air by something you can't see, and then go all the way across the room and slam into a wall. That is such an effective, terrifying scene that they didn't need to show you close on. The fact that it was as the camera's panning away and it's happening in just like 10% of the screen, but it's still drawing your energy and attention into that 10%. That is really effective filmmaking. So the 2021 film didn't just resurrect the Candyman legacy. I think it modernized him, and it reclaimed the myth into social commentary, proving the legend still works and it still can evolve. But that being said, at number one, we have the original from 1992. This is a very intelligent horror movie where in 1992 especially, so many other films, particularly in the quote unquote slasher genre, and one could argue that Candyman is a slasher or was evolved into a slasher. This was smarter than a lot of the other films that were coming out around its time. uh, Bernard Rose took the Clive Barker short story, The Forbidden. He placed it in Chicago's Cabrini Green, um, and transformed it into a tale of uh, class segregation, a commentary on race, poverty, uh, the developments of what makes a myth in America. And the fact that it has so much roots in realism makes it feel dangerous, makes it feel true. Um, Virginia Madsen's character, Helen Lyle, is a phenomenal protagonist. Uh, the evolution of the mystery in the story, I think, is so good as she's diving into it. The one skepticism I would have about not her performance, but her character, and this is a story element, is I would have liked them to see how they could explore her relationship to her partner, who is a professor at the college she is writing her dissertation at. Um, it was only hinted at subtext what drew them together. Uh, and I think they could have spelled that out large of the fact that she felt she had something to prove, that she felt she had something to do, because he always had his eye on the next thing. It was kind of hinted that she may have been a student of his at one point, and he's just has that wandering eye for the next student, and thus she feels like she needs to do something bold to capture his attention again. That should have been spelled out a little better. I was reading a lot into subtext to find that, but I think they could have spelled that out. But outside of that, like, her performance is so good in this. Tony Todd is a true embodiment of the character. This is why the sequels were made, was because of his portrayal. Every line he delivers carries weight. The cinematography in this, I think, is really powerful. From the aerial shots as the film's opening to the sterile architecture, the blending between flat monochromatic shots to shots that have such a warmth to them, just in how they're light and how they're colored. The panning shots over the visual art, I think, is really good. In sound design, I've mentioned Philip Glass's score several times in this. This is where it started. It added an extra dimension to this. Regarding the scary factor, I would say this is the scariest of any of the movies, but it's more of a psychological terror at its core. It builds upon the atmosphere. It builds upon character tension. I love the practical effects in this. You feel the bees were in a lot of the sequels. The bees definitely felt very CGI. They felt so real because they were real. What did Tony Todd did that scene with the bees crawling out of his mouth, and how many times he got stung in that. So the verdict, this is a really good horror film, and it's a good horror film that still holds up to this day. And there you have it. That's the ranking from number 4, Day of the Dead, number 3, Farewell to the Flesh, number 2, the 2021 Nia DaCosta reboot, and then number 1 is the original 1992 Candyman. Each film kind of reflects that era that it was made in. But what I loved about this isn't just a ghost story. It's a reflection of how something can echo over time that just kind of carries from one generation to the next. And in particular, how the 2021 reboot did so well at evolving that hive mentality, or that hive concept of the Candyman character. So there you have it. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which was your favorite Candyman? Which was your favorite portrayal of Candyman? Did you prefer the evolution of the Tony Todd character in the 2021, or is Tony Todd the sole Candyman for you? As always, we appreciate your comments. Be respectful of each other in the comments section, and we will catch you all in the next screening. Take care, everyone.